Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 235, February 2026. The Life of an Empath. How to live in 2026 and beyond with extra sensory perception. How do you embrace being an empath and thrive in today's world? Are you open to feeling and to releasing energy? Do you know the difference between your energy and other energies? How can you be productive empath when there's so many negative forces working against you? How does being an empath into conception, pregnancy, and birth support your mission into motherhood? Welcome into February, and February is a most important, beautiful time in my life because it is the month that my oldest son was born, and that is forever in my heart. Of course, he is now 15 years old, which is so crazy to really sit with. And I'm one of those people that are like a dreamer and a timeline traveler, and maybe you do this too, but I've had moments. I remember like just being in my beautiful Topanga tree house is what I like to call it, and looking at the window of the oak trees and the sunshine. And it was very hard postpartum I had. It was not easy. I felt like I was cracked in half and open and being forced into the altars of mother in a way that was just so much energy, and it spun me into really dark places. But in that, there was always light. And I welcomed each day as it came and nourished my body, nourished my son. And why am I painting this picture of those moments? Because there were times in those moments where I would go, what would it be like when my son was like probably 6 months, maybe 8 months, 10 months, 15 months old? I was like, what's it going to be like when he's like 10? What's it going to be like when he's 15? And I don't know what he was going to be like. But I think that there's something about going ahead to future timelines of curiosity, and it just felt very instinctual and contemplative for me. And I'm always open to welcome that, right? Because we are so multidimensional. We are so layered beyond our thought space, beyond the overthinker. And this is really, I feel like we are in the habits of overthinking, analyzing, criticizing, diagnosing. And, of course, there's a balance to everything. It's kind of like, are you always in the thinker, analyzing, analytical? Some people are. And maybe they feel like they live a good life like that. And that's fine. But when we're in that space of really over, we miss out the opportunities of the world of energy, feeling, and sensing, which for me, I feel like I was born as a baby into this world as a feeling, sensing organism that wasn't super activated in over analytical thinking being. And growing up, I thought that was bad. I was like, oh, I have to be this hard critical thinker. And I think I was layered in a lot of traumatic things, the way I was born and the family that was created with me, and even toxicities. And, everybody has different toxicity levels, and that, those things definitely create obstacles, call them obstacles to navigate, to move through, because it's a lot. It's a lot to take in for the infant, the child, and then growing through that into that comes in so many different ways. When I'm going to tell you, what does it mean? What is an empath? I'm looking it up literally right now because I wanted to share like what is not my interpretation of it. And not to be confused with empathy, which is completely different. And when we see the word empath, it could be under the terms of parapsychology, paranormal, metaphysics. I even say nowadays more even in psychology. And The term empath, here's what we'll see who's this Wikipedia says. We'll see what Wikipedia says. An empath is somebody who has a higher level of empathy. Okay, I mean, all right, that's how they define it. Sure. Let me see. Ah, here we go. Psychiatrist Judith Orloff, which by the way, I met. This I wasn't planning on saying this, but now that I saw her name, we're being in the moment. Judith Orloff, I met her in person, even with back in the day with James von Prague on a different notice in Santa Monica, Barnes and Nobles. This is back in probably the early 2000s when these people were big, but not big enough where you have to pay hundreds of dollars to see them. These were just, moments in the bookstore. I love those times in the 90s and the 2000s. It's such a different time of people coming out. Now everything is so different, right? With social media. These are when people met in person. And Judith Orloff, she's a somebody that's an empath that reads energy. She comes from a doctor background, obviously psychology. And I know she has many of books. I don't connect with her work now, so I don't know where she's at or what she's doing. But I know she does go into the connection of supernatural abilities. And let me see if I can find a really good definition for you here. And there's even, of course, you can Google like 10 traits of empathic people. Like, what is that about? And what is an empath? There's even the Cleveland Clinic talks about what an empath is. I'm like, huh. I feel like it's kind of like intuition. It's like telepathy. We're really getting tuned into like, oh, this is a real thing. This is not just empathy, but empathy is a part of it. It could be layered in here. Like, for example, the Cleveland Clinic says, signs you're an empath. This is sweet. You have empathy, you're sensitive, you're a good listener, and you're caring. So then you think, well, maybe there's more. I don't know. In my world, like maybe there's more empaths than I really know. But here we go. Here's a better definition. Let's see. If you're looking for an empath definition, Dr. Childs explains it as an empath is a person who has the ability to feel what others are feeling and understand what others are feeling. They also know to feel feelings on a deeper level and take on the feelings of others. Bravo. I like this. This is here. We're going to go off of that. Yes. Feeling the feeling of others, feeling the energy of the world. What do you do with that? I want to say that way more than 50% of this global world are empaths. There's no way. I mean, I'm no statistician. I dropped out of that program as my PhD in somatic psychology, honestly, because I didn't want to do the statistics and I didn't want to defend a dissertation. Plus, it's not my thing. It's not my thing. But I stepped into it for a moment and it was great teachers. I just was like, you know what, this is not my jam. So I don't know the hard statistics on it, but I'd be curious to see like, and is there data on that? Maybe there's not even data on that. I know that anybody that comes into the space with me, that's over a decade of sessions, I would say like 99.9% of the men and women that come into my space are empaths or clairsentients if we put them in the meta senses under the clairs. And why that is, I see it. I see it in their energetic structure. Yes, your energetic structure will show if you are an empath. And some people have deeper levels of empathic abilities. Like I see doctors and nurses, they have a different empathic resonance. It's actually, especially nurses, their heart space is so different than other people that are not nursing, that are not healers, actually. And why I say nurses, because I see it a lot with nurses, a beautiful, energetic field of light around their heart space. But you don't have to be a nurse. You can just be a healer. Sometimes the healers do have an energetic structure in their body, in their physiology, in their energetic body that is different. And if you're a healer, you are 100% an empath. There's no way you're not. So you know if you're an empath or not. And maybe you feel like at times, oh, I'm oversensitive or I feel things or I don't know what to do with it. And I'm going to break it down a little bit to get more clarity for maybe your own personal journey, what you're looking at towards this journey that, is bringing you into conception, pregnancy, and motherhood, because you're going to feel a lot of things on the journey and you're having to decipher them, to release them, to create space for your own energetic relaxation because we can feel way too much happening, right? Especially now. Just imagine everything, every person you meet, every energy on social media. If you're scrolling and you're like, I'm just scrolling, I'm behind this lead or, radioactive shield, or maybe that's not a good example. I'm looking at social media scrolling, I'm in a shield, and you are not in a shield. Everything you're looking at is picking up energy. And it doesn't matter what the story is. If you were to test your empathic abilities, and that this could be challenging to your left brain, is blindfolding yourself and covering your ears, like hearing nothing, seeing nothing. What do you feel in there? You feel energy. And many of us have finally tuned in that connection of energy. It doesn't mean that we are free from the negative forces or that we don't feel the energy of things come through so intensely that then it becomes an issue, right? And I'm going to talk about that too, because I find myself to be clairsentience, clairvoyance are my two biggest meta senses. Some would even say, we're putting a label on it, but the sentient being has those abilities naturally, just do. Some people just have I don't want to say a higher level in comparison, but they do. They have a higher level of that. It's nature. So if some of us were born at a more undeficient level, then it's going to be perceived that we have more knowledge or more intuitive insight. But maybe that's true. I don't know. And what I can say is Kelly's origin story. I will start from there. That'll be good. As I get in my raspberry rose tea, I'll never forget it. It's just a glimpse moment in my memory. And, we have so many memories that kind of unfold and come and go and resurface, right? I was in the backyard in New Jersey, way in the back. I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I just come into like a higher level of my being. I went from this chubby little prepubescent kid. And then once a year into shifting into puberty, I thinned out. I actually went into modeling for just a moment. I was approached by so many people and potential agencies through New Jersey, New York. And I thought that's so interesting because I was like, I'm not a model. It's a big ego boost. Everyone thinks you're attractive enough to, but that's a whole other conversation because that was a time of the Kate Moss days, which was you have to be super, super skinny and it's very dangerous. And yeah, I was coming into myself in a way. I was being noticed, I was connecting, and I started to notice in this backyard, 14 Boxwood Drive, between right off a Boundary Road, beautiful area of the suburbs, central Jersey, back inside the woods. Not even woods. It was more like trees here and there. It wasn't like a big forest. And I'm going through there and I remember just walking through and stopping and looking at this tree and I'm like, why do I know what it's saying? So then you're going to say to me, well, what does that mean, Kelly? You know what it's saying. I just had a deep body felt sense and mind sense that I knew how that tree felt. And I just touched the tree and just laughed. And that was one moment out of many that I realized like something else is happening. I also notice I can feel my family's feelings and I start to feel them physically in my body, whether they had a toothache, a stomach ache. And then I started to tell myself, that's strange. I'm not saying it, but they're saying it. And then I realized when I was younger, I started to learn into my teens, into my 20s. I used to have this saying, if this is not mine, God, take it from me. And that actually really saved me because I realized at that point, when you're an empath, you can feel everything. And empaths tend to be more sick people, physically sick, even emotionally sick. And sign me up. I had every physical sickness you could imagine. And I think Dr. Judith Orloff talks about that too in her, now if I'm recalling it properly, where being sick a lot is very common. And other even empaths have felt that way because it is really hard to differentiate. I'm not going to pretend that it's easy. And even now, I've been in practice 15 years old. Let's see, 10, 20, 30, 35 years I've been in practice as an empath to feeling the reality of the world in a way where I still feel like when it comes through, yeah, of course I can differentiate way more than I could before. This is why my heart has a passion for empathic women and supporting them, and even children, empathic children. We need to teach our children. Okay, I have two sons, and guess what? And my husband's very empathic in a different way than me. My sons are, and I've seen it. One has really wildly empath, like a lot of physical, certain things come up, where my other one is a little bit more, I want to say controlled, but also just anchored in. Because if you have a good regulated nervous system, which you may have to work on, you're going to have a really good way of working with energy and releasing energy. And so my origin story begins at 15, and I had so many experiences there forward, right? I remember one time I was like, why is my teeth hurting? And then, like, thousands of miles away, my brother was getting teeth surgery, and I was like, damn it. Because I told myself I wanted to leave my family's energy to discover myself, and yet I'm bringing their energy. And that's when I learned in my 20s about empaths. And I remember I went to this one event in Burbank, California, and they freaked me out. These people, they were like anxious disorder, ADD, ADHD. I was like, what is happening? I was like, these are the empaths. And no offense to them, but it really scared me because I was like, I'm a very inward, quiet, like not wildly, I had no emotional mental issues. And I thought, wow, are the empaths have emotional mental issues? What does that even mean? But I also know that I'm not a mental, emotional person in the sense of I'm a physical manifester. So I'm the person that like has the limping, the hurt hand, the stomach ache. I go inward and quiet, and like that's what I do. Whereas other people may feel like anxiety or high levels of emotionality that they can't control, and they blame their hormones too much. And none is better than the other, to be honest. I was always told if you can just deal with the emotion and then let it move outward. So I was like, oh man, I was like, I go into the densest energy of the physical. And I still kind of do sometimes, by the way. Oh man, that program is hard. You have to know your program and how you're like working with it. But now the frequencies are so different. Our ability to heal and the intelligence of accessing that space, just like fertility, is so here now. And it doesn't require a lot of thought and thinking. It requires a lot of being and centering. And that's a whole other podcast because it's like, what does that even mean? Because, I'm here to challenge your mental space. I'm here to challenge your thought space. And I'm here to rise and bring the new earth energy to the empaths so you can activate, get into your next higher level of your own frequency to then evolve, right? And create and be and connect. So here's the beauty of the empath. You can create, manipulate, and change energy. You can feel the most beautiful things from the flower and its voice. You can feel the way the ocean and the seas and the rivers sing. You can feel the depth and truth of a soul, even an addict, even a homeless person underneath their bright light, their energy. You can feel that. You can It's different. It's not like anything you've ever felt. So the empath has beautiful, purposeful abilities. And this is what I want to really spotlight because nobody does. We always go into the empath of pain, dysregulation, suffering, fear. And what is that? The negative energies are against me. People will say, well, I feel the negative energies. Okay, great. There's negative and positive energies. You have a choice on what you're connecting with and how you're feeling and how you're grounding into it. And there was a time where I felt like as an empath, I wanted to like lock the door and never leave in my 20s. It was really intense, but I had no teachers. I had nobody to say that it's okay to feel. But I did start to meet people when I moved away from home into a big city of Los Angeles and found some really deep friendships where I was doing energy healing work. And if you're an empath and you feel like you're all over the place, you don't know where you are, you want to learn more, learn an energy modality. There's over thousands of energy modalities. The most popular is Reiki, polarity therapy, hands-on touch, quantum. I learned integrative energy therapy, which is angelic cellular energy. It was the most amazing, joyful experience ever. It brought me into myself. So this is why I love any type of energy modality. I don't practice hands-on energy healing, but it happens in my sessions regardless. I don't have to actually be there. I'm not actually doing anything. And we can access those spaces. So, bravo, as an empath, you can access, elevate, and bring a certain level of energy to spaces. So, remember the positive, you see the beauty, the grace, the awesomeness. Yes, the empath will see the disharmony, will see the darkness, will see the struggle. But that's where we bring in the balance of it. Because, yes, I've had, people get so scared of negative things, right? I've had a lot of negative things come up throughout my lifetime. I can see whatever frequencies I want to see, let's say. If I want to go into entity darker energies, I can, but it doesn't serve me. And I've seen them with people in hands on work 20 years ago. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. But this is what makes me, I think, pretty good at medical intuition is that I can see the disharmony and inconsistent energy in the field and the structure of the physiological bone, body, muscles, blood, as well as the emotional, mental energies. And I've been in training with it for a long time, and I've been listening and opening and seeing what that is. So I noticed little Kelly always saw the disharmony. And I think that's why when I came into be with my family, oh boy. I know we all have trauma in our family, but uh, sexual abuse trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, it's not even just one trauma. Like, this is their life. And I, as an empath, felt that. Some things were shared, other things were hidden. And you can't hide things from an empath. You just can't. And an empath does want to heal the family. They want to bring in, like, oh, it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. Let's bring healing. I don't know what to do, or I'm going to make you feel better. That's just the story of the empath. So, looking at where you are, yes, there are times where I feel like, oh, my stomach hurts, and I walk in the room with someone, and or they have a heart issue, and I feel it, especially close people to me, and I'm like, and then how do I separate that? I have to separate that. I take a breath, anchor in, but you train yourself into your own practice, your own self-care. And I've re-regulated my nervous system in a way I never thought was possible. Like, I really didn't. I'm just like, well, I'm guessing I'm going to live in freeze, frozen, fawn, dysregulation for the rest of my life. But I learned embodiment. I learned nature. I learned self trust. I learned intuition is everything. I learned how to really care and be with my body, with my mind. I do detoxes. I cleanse. I'm obsessed right now with fasting. It is so freaking exciting. It is exciting. I never thought I would say that. And if you are somebody that's dealing with infertility, um, conception journey, like, do not pass up fasting. I hope to talk more about it. It is incredible and amazing, and it really will change your body pretty instantly. And everybody's different, so there needs space and time and energy for that. And even postpartum and later, it just gives ourselves a reboot. And, coming back, yeah, the empath again is valuable. It's beautiful. It's who you are. And I want you to be encouraged by it, especially if you're in a conception journey. The hardest thing, natural conception, fine. You're listening, you're being an empath. Intervention conception for empaths, especially IVF. I'm not anti IVF, but it is really hard. And you have to go in with an open space, knowing that an empath will struggle more because you're feeling everything really deeply. You're feeling the energetic frequencies of injections, of hormones, of change. And I have ways of working with that with individuals to see where your own energetic imprint is, to see where your connection is, right? Pregnancy, yes, the empath, you're going to feel your baby. There's going to be conversations, connections, intuition. And then you're birthing. Wow, empaths and birthing. Yeah, you're going to feel everything. And motherhood, baby being's here, and you're in connection, communication. I call it newborn telepathic care. Guess what? Your empathic energies are still connected to baby. You're reading energy together. It's beautiful. You ever gaze into your infant's eyes or another infant? My gosh, they will read your soul, these infants. I don't connect with a lot of physical infants. I see them energetically or I work with them through around the world. But when I'm in a store or something and there's an infant by, it just makes my heart ground, stop, pause. I hear them when they're crying. I hear them when they're just cooing. And it makes me feel like they just leave their body and they want to communicate. They want to be heard. And the empath's going to hear that. And it's so like, the babies bring me to weepiness. They make me feel like they're angels or something. Back in my 20s, the angelic energies would make my eyes so weepy, and that's what babies do for me now because they're so precious, beautiful, and purposeful. And we do have empath children. And the thing that people get really upset about, and I've seen this in the holistic psychology world over the years, is, are empaths traumatized? Is that why people are empaths? And I would say yes and no. Yeah, there are a lot of us who were born as empaths in really traumatic births where we had to go into survival. But there's a healing part to empaths because there are children born trauma free. And I have an example literally in my reality of my youngest son, and he has empathic abilities that are cleaner than mine, but he does feel too much of my stuff. And I think I shared that in other podcasts at times. I've seen him take on other people's energy because he like physically starts to feel them and he thinks it's his. And I told him we do different activities at times when that comes up, like, hey, you think you could dance it out, swing it out, or what would feel good? And maybe I'll do a whole episode on sensitive children and empathic children and what that looks like if you have one. Yeah, I'll do that in the future. So stay tuned to that. But now I'm talking about the empath of you as the woman, the mother, the man, the father. Like, what is your connection as an empath? And keep feeling into it, obviously. Keep exploring it. Take care of yourself is the most important. Slow down when energy feels too much. It's okay. Voice it out. Talk to your friends, talk to healers, talk to others. It's okay to be like, this doesn't feel good. I don't like this. I know as the empath I am, I can feel metals and irons and EMFs. That's where I've gotten to that level. That's why I joke and say we're all EMF readers, but I know I am. I don't deny it. I can go into any random places. I can tune in. I've discovered how I can just hear if there's miles and miles of buildings or not. I can actually tune in and feel that density. And again, I've been in training with myself for a very long time and I trust it. And I go to explore it. So I find the evidence. So I'll go over into the evidence of it, like, oh, there's a building here. I know it's here. And then I'll find it. I'm like, see, I knew it was here. So we can practice, we can play around with energies and, keep like seeing where your energy goes. Keep embracing the empath that you are and keep sitting in it. Keep receiving it. Let your own energy get there. Listen. You're in conception or you're in pregnancy. I'm pretty sure your baby's an empath and you're just in communication. You're in love space. Keep being in communication energetically. There is an oracle card that says you are an empath. Listen to your energy of sensing and feeling. And there's also, I send you messages of tingling and chills. And Spirit Baby Oracle cards are back for sale. Get your own deck at home use, conception, pregnancy, birth, loss, healing. And I'm going to leave you all with that for now. And I want to thank you for joining episode 235, February 2026. The Life of an Empath, How to Live in 2026 and Beyond with Extra Sensory Perception. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.